So in this video, I want to share with you why we use the feed we use. It's a feed from New Country Organics. And as the name already applies, it's organic feed. It's also corn and soy free. And there are a couple of reasons why we use this feed for both of our egg layers as well as our meat birds. And the number one reason really is that monogastric animals and chickens and all poultry really fall in that category. They are what they eat, much like humans. So if they eat feed that is not nutritionally optimal, that is maybe high in polyunsaturated fatty acids in particular, then that ends up in the fat tissue and in the meat of the birds, right? And so one of the main issues with poultry in general is that they are very high in linoleic acid. That's an omega-6 fatty acids that's highly inflammatory if consumed in elevated amounts. And unfortunately, our modern diet is already relatively high in that and relatively low in omega-3. So to improve the fatty acid composition of our meats and the eggs ultimately that we consume, we give them feed that's low in those polyunsaturated fatty acids. And that means cutting out soy, which is high in omega-6, but also very estrogenic. Doesn't have any corn, which is also very high in linoleic acid, and that uses olive oil instead of the typical vegetable oil that is used by mills to bind the supplemental minerals to the grains. And what that means is basically there are no seed oils, no vegetable oils in there, and instead that particular New Country Organics uses olive oil. So the overall fatty acid composition of the feed is significantly better than any other feed, and that means it's then reflected in the meat and in the fat of the bird and in the eggs as well. And so that's why we use New Country Organics. It's the only feed that I have found so far that offers low PUFA feed, meaning olive oil instead of seed oils. And then of course it's organic as well, because I don't want to have any pesticides and herbicides and glyphosates and all of the things that are typically used growing corn, soy and grains in general. I don't want to have that in the feed because that ends up in the meat and then ultimately in our bodies, and we don't want that. And so that's why we buy from New Country Organics exclusively the low PUFA feed. Now I would say that it's more important for meat birds than it is for egg layers, because the amount of those omega-6s in the eggs is the ratio significantly lower than what ends up in the meat, in the fat of surrounding the meat and the intramuscular fat. So we could get away with feeding a regular, PUFA organic corn and soy-free feed to our egg layers, but since we buy by the ton and we don't have a huge operation, we only have maybe 100 or so birds, we just buy a 2-ton pellet at a time. And so we use them then for all of our birds. And we buy obviously, the starter feed, the grower feed, and then the layer feed for our egg layers. And so that's how we do it. It's much more expensive, unfortunately, than regular feed, which makes the egg significantly more expensive. And more so, it makes the meat birds significantly more expensive. In fact, I would argue that the birds that we raise cost probably as much or even more than the best birds you can buy anywhere from farms. But it's, in my opinion, totally worth it. I think chickens are not meant to be consumed for meat anyway. That's a modern kind of invention, But if you want to do that because you like the taste of chicken meat, like our kids do, like my wife does, then it's worth it investing in the higher quality feed to make sure that the meat is as healthy as it can be. It's still nowhere near as healthy as beef, for that matter, or any other ruminant meat, but it's definitely much better than anything you can buy in the store, and that's why we do it. If you want to get more information about the feed we use, I have a link down in the description to check it out. If you have any questions, let us know, and I hope we'll see you in the next video.